Hey there, Average Joes. Welcome back to the Eternal Struggle. I'm your average host, JayMang. Today, I'm joined by my taller than average co host, TallSharkandHandsome. How are you doing today, Shark?
I am doing great. I've got an awesome brew, and I've got a couple of really cool brews to show you later on. Um, I've been playing a little bit of Eternal this week. I'm starting a new job, so it's a little tough because I'm trying to learn all those skills. But I've squeezed some games in, and I've got some fun stuff to show you later. How about you, Jay? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I've been spending a lot of time with family. Actually, haven't been on my computer very much this week, which, I mean, I just really haven't been playing Eternal. So
But you can play on your phone.
I realize that, but I just haven't really had the time. I was fully planning on getting on Saturday night, and I was laying in bed, and like both my fiance and my son were asleep, and I was like, okay, I can go play games now. And I was just like, I'm fucking tired, and I just went to bed, which like never happens for me like that early in a night. So what I'm trying to say is I'm getting old. So why don't you tell me about your week in Eternal?
Yeah, so I've been trying to play around with some of these campaign cards. I put together a shitty pledge deck that was Aurelian Pledge. And then I found out that one of my teammates was actually building a deck that was relatively similar, but just infinitely better. And so I've been playing that and tweaking that with him as well. Batteries.
All right,
Um,
neat.
yeah.
So I don't really have much to say about it as far as my week in Eternal goes because I've probably played a whole two games in the past week since our last recording. Um, I I don't really want to get too far into it, but I just really haven't had a whole lot of motivation to play the game. I don't really know why currently. I don't really know if it has anything to do necessarily with Eternal the game. I think it's a lot more to do with my interest in some other things has been pretty high. Obviously, spending time with family is the interest is always really high, but on top of that, I've just been more interested in like watching shows and playing Magic recently. But I know that I'm going to end up circling back around, especially because one of these brews that you're going to be talking about later piques my interest. So I think I'm going to be trying that out.
Good. Good, good, good.
Yeah. So real quickly, guys, I know that we've been running really long the last few weeks, so we are going to try and keep this episode down a little bit shorter. So we've got five topics. I'm going to say quote topics because some of these we're going to go through pretty quickly, and then we'll spend a little bit more time on some other ones. So our topics this week are we're going to quickly talk about the ECQ that's coming up this weekend, which is April 12th through 14th. We're going to discuss the Xo Nerf and some implications around that. We're going to very briefly mention the draft changes that have occurred this week as well, alongside the Xo Nerf. And then we're going to talk about the announcement that came out today from Scarlatch that campaigns are coming to an end. Thank God. And then our final topic before we go into our weekly segments will be Shark's brews. Shark has been brewing a lot since the inception of the new campaign. That's another reason why I'm going to be so happy that the campaigns are gone because like it's like a double entendre. It's got like so many different meanings inside this game right now. But we're going to go over a couple of the decks that he's been working around with and maybe inspire some of you and including myself. So
Yes.
so let's just jump right into it.
All
So
right.
our first topic this week is the ECQ that's coming up this weekend, which is April 12th and through the 14th. Are you going to be playing in this, Shark?
Of course not. I never play in these tournaments. I just don't have the set time where I can just like sit down and play the game for that long, and also have the next day to do it as well. I If I'm planning on doing that, I would rather stream instead. And so I'll play in it. If even if I placed, I wouldn't like set aside my Sunday to do that too.
Yeah, so I'm not playing in it because I have prior obligations, which kind of turns into the whole like argument that we had I think the last time and maybe the time before that with the ECQs that they just don't really give us, even though it's like pretty much following a schedule, they don't like give us when these events occur until like a week beforehand, which is like not a lot of
Well,
time.
so previously, prior to these last two, they've been giving us 2 and 3 weeks. There was somebody who made a post about it on Reddit saying that it was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They found the exact dates, but only these past two ECQs, this one and the one before, were announced within 1 week of that exact tournament date. So it is a new thing that they're doing there, and I for one don't like that they're not giving us enough time to test. Even though I'm not even playing in the tournament, why do I care? Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you want the tournament scene to be healthy, though, you understand as a Magic player, like we are very used to events being announced many months in advance. Which I understand that they don't really need to go to that extreme because in Magic, you have a lot of other considerations like hotels and flights and whatnot. If we're talking about certain like larger events, because I know that I will travel like at least maybe once a year to a larger legacy event. But like for the ECQs, I don't think it's too much to ask for like at the end of one ECQ, making your announcement for the next ECQ that's a month away. That's plenty of time for people to request off work and whatnot. I know this topic has been a little exhausted, but I think that's not, too unreasonable to ask for.
yeah, yep. I think people are still brewing with pledge stuff. I think you're going to see some of the classic meta game, meta decks that have been around for a while. You're going to see FJS, you're going to see FTP, you're going to see probably Haunted Highway by Dr. Pringles at the very least. But I think it's going to be a lot of the same with a little bit of new hotness from the new campaign.
Yeah, are there any specific like breakout decks that you think are going to be like very popular, or do you think that people are going to kind of stick to what they know, even through this nerf that just happened this week?
I think most people are going to stick to what they know because that's kind of what you're supposed to do with a tournament like this. But I do think that there's going to be a few people with, especially with the Huru site that just came out, the Koroviat Palace. I think there's going to be an FJP, an Ixton deck out there that's gonna show up for sure.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I don't want to make too many assumptions since, like I said, I haven't really been playing a whole lot, but I wouldn't be too surprised that some of these decks that I've been hearing about, even with my limited playing or watching, such as like the pledge decks or the Ixtion decks, to be showing up and people to need to be prepared. So, you ready to move on to our next topic?
Of course.
Let's
talk about it.
All right, so our next topic is the Xo Nerf. So, for those who may not know, Xo has been a very, very large portion of the meta since it became a card. It formerly cost 3 fire influence and 7 power to cast. And that has been changed to 4 fire influence and 8 power. Nothing else has changed about the card. That is the only change that they made to it. They just made it harder to cast via making it cost 1 more and need an additional fire influence to cast.
Yeah, I think this is a great nerf. I think it's still going to see a lot of decks. It's going to be in a lot of decks. It's still going to be used because the Fate is super powerful. Something that you can actually cast and you can put back either end of the card, depending on if you're early game, late game, whatever. I don't know. I think it's great. I don't know. I think it basically just won't hit the board as much. That's about it.
Yeah, so my thoughts on it are pretty much the same. I think that this type of nerf means a lot more for the lower to the ground decks that like to jam Xo into their deck, because I think that the additional fire influence and the additional power cost aren't as big of a deal as some people have made it out to be in certain decks. Like, I know that I've heard a couple times that the FTP, the Genève decks, people would be like, oh, this is going to affect them a lot, but I don't really think it's that big of a deal for Genève, because Genève already needed to hit 3 fire influence anyways, and it's a pretty go big deck. Like, it's not really that far outside of the realm of possibility for them to hit 8 power. I do think that no matter how you slice it, it cuts a little bit of percentage points from across the board for the card, but like the card is still very, very castable in the very large decks. I actually think that this is a bigger deal for Winchest. if you want to talk about the go large decks, because wind chest typically, like the 3 fire is like one of the last things you're trying to go for, because a lot of the wind chest decks are trying to get 4 justice for their marketed chains. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of times where you can't play that chains because you don't have quadruple justice. There's going to be also a lot of times where you can't play this Joe because you don't have the quadruple fire.
yeah, so I actually really like this change personally. I think that this is probably the best outcome that they could have come up with for a nerf to the card without absolutely neutering it. It's still very powerful, it's still very useful. I think that it has a lot less utility inside the or outside of the FTP type decks that like shouldn't really be too much affected by the fact that it costs 1 more and requires 1 more fire. Like I do think that this hurts a lot of the like lower to the ground mid-range decks, especially like let's say like a Rakano deck gets really popular. I know for a second there that Rakano ramp was starting to get popular.
Oh, I saw that deck. That looked really cool.
Or
with
even
Yushkov and stuff.
yeah, even like an Ixion style pledge deck, like this is much less playable in those decks because getting that fire influence is a detriment. Like they can't really do it that easily. But FTP, like those style of decks that do need this type of threat still can still play it. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, one thing that I really liked about this was how Scarlatch made a post about it before it actually happened.
Yeah, I think that's a good signal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like normally whenever there's like a nerf or something, we hear about it the same day that the patch is going live. But for this one, Scarlatch was like, "Hey, I wanted to let you guys know if you're testing for the ECQ." I think that's exactly what he said in his Reddit post. But he made a Reddit post where he said, "This is what's happening. Joe is going to cost 8 and 4 fire. I wanted you to know before you start doing your testing." And then a couple days later, it went through. Now, this is really great of them to begin to open up the dialogue where they will tell us things before they actually start happening, which is kind of what we've been clamoring for forever.
Yeah, I think the reception was really, really positive to the fact that he made an early post. I mean, you're always going to get those one-offs.
Alpaca lips.
Yeah, of people that are just going to complain about anything. So, I think it's a step in the right direction. I hope that trend continues.
Exactly. Me too. Let's go to the next topic.
All right.
How about some draft changes? So I think it was with the Xo Nerf, they made some draft changes as well. Is that true? Am I lying? I don't know.
Yes, they happened at the same time.
They happened at the same time. Okay, great. Yeah. So they made some changes to the draft format where they switched around the pack order. So now it starts off with a curated pack, then it does a set 5 pack, and then another set 5 pack, and then a curated pack. And that's really great. They also made a huge change to the curated packs. I think they went from like 270 cards to like 100 and something cards, or maybe it was 240 to 170. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they dropped a whole bunch of cards. So you're going to see a lot of duplicate commons, a lot more duplicate commons. And they, probably the biggest thing that I've seen is that they dropped all of the strangers. So fixing is a lot harder to come by.
Seems weird in a 3-color format.
Sure does. Now we're not going to talk about a whole lot about this because, we're not draft masters. Sometimes I make it to masters. Jay doesn't even play ranked. So
extremely far from draft masters. So because I know literally nothing about draft, I would strongly recommend that anybody who's actually interested in this news and some like real analysis on this news to go check out Farming Eternal. We've mentioned Farming Eternal on the cast before. I haven't personally listened to them. I do need to give them a listen because they seem to be received very, very well by the Reddit community. And we all know how hard the Reddit community is to please. So
just so that you're aware, Farming Eternal is another podcast.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yes, Farming Eternal is a fellow podcast by Barefoot Farmer and the other person is escaping my mind right now, and I feel real bad about it. But we gave them a shout out, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and definitely check them out. I've heard nothing but good things about them, and they're going to give you much better information on draft than us.
It's Barefoot Farmer and Petamaru.
Awesome. Barefoot Farmer and Petamaru. Definitely a shout out to those guys. So check them out. Let's move on to the next topic. So topic 4.
Okay, now, wait. Before we get to this one, I want you to talk about what we were planning on doing with the stream today.
Okay. So originally we were planning on making a joke where we were going to name today's podcast Diamond Drops, or our thoughts on diamond drops, or thoughts on diamond campaigns or campaigns in general. And so
you'll earn diamond drops if you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, so we were going to make some sort of joke along that, and I was at the beginning of the podcast going to say that was going to be our sole topic for the day, and then just never mention it again throughout the entire podcast and go as normal. I thought that would be fucking brilliant, but Scarlett had to come in and with this whole new we're gonna be transparent kind of sort of thing, decided to let us all know that an end to campaigns is coming. The thing that we all wanted but then grew to hate is going away.
Yes. So he didn't say that they're actually going to end. He said that they are going to suspend them. Now, what they said that they were going to do is that they're reviewing all the data and stuff, and they're talking about what they've seen in the community, how it's been negatively affecting the community. They're going to suspend the ability to use anything, purchase anything or use the drop campaigns as of April 19th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. They wanted to give people notice so that they can use whatever campaigns they were planning on doing. And then after that, they're going to increase the value of the wood tier campaigns, which is of the wood tier drops, which is the normal drops that you get from just watching anyone. And there's going to be other changes taking place as well. So they're not going to be completely going away. They're going to be revamping them eventually. But it's really cool of them to, they saw that there was just post after post after post about, just all this drama over the campaigns, over titles of streams, over, just everybody being a fucking bowl cut.
Oh,
and Scarlett was like, all right, I'm turning this car around, you guys.
Exactly. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate too much on it, but I don't know if this was damage control, because today, especially, anybody who was on the subreddit today, it was getting quite out of hand. I could tell that it's nothing you got your normal amount of complaining on Reddit, and today was taking that and turning it up to 12. It was really bad, and there's a lot of it seems like some drama happening between streamers. I just want to take a second and be guys, can we stop acting like children and be better people to each other? Exactly. I don't really understand why. So when I first started playing a year ago, I was very impressed by the fact of how not toxic the majority of the community in Eternal was. I liked just about everybody that I had come in contact with on Reddit. I liked pretty much every content creator except Manus, and It's changed a lot. I think that a lot changed when drops happened. We're not going to really get into that. All I want to say is that if you really want somebody to listen to what you have to say, can we just approach these things in a more civilized manner? So that's all I want to say on that. So
yeah,
the reception to this news seemed pretty good. A lot of people are very, very happy about it. I, for one, extremely happy about it, mostly because the streamers that I enjoy watching, I want them to feel like they can come back to streaming, because I personally didn't give a shit about the drops for the last 2 months or so. I can understand why people want that value, but it's not worth it to me to sit there and watch somebody I don't enjoy watching just to get a rare card or whatever.
Yeah. I think the best thing that you can see is that the top comment on Scarlett's announcement is, so what do we complain about next? I feel lost.
Yeah.
So there's not I mean, there's always going to be people like bitching about, oh, this card's too good, or this card's too good, or I hate the way that this card is, or this deck.
I think we
But
found the title of this week, by the way, just to interject real quick. So what do we complain about next?
deal, I like that. What do we complain about next? All right, yeah. So, what do you guys think about the suspension of the campaigns? What do you guys think about all the drama that's been going on? Well, maybe not the drama. I don't care about the drama so much. But tell me what you guys think about ending of the campaigns. What you hope to see when they come back. Maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, definitely let us know. And just to say my own 2 cents about that, I personally just hope they don't come back. I think they were a failed experiment, and I don't really know if there's a whole lot they can do to improve that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's move to the last topic. Moving
Right.
forward.
So, last topic is Shark Brews. I started after this campaign. I started brewing with all these new cards. I was really in love with the pledge decks. I started off by building something that I called Elf Chalice with a guy named Onyx Ghost in my Discord. And we were, I was playing something. I was using Severin. I was using a whole bunch of pledge cards like Shadowlands Border Scout, and I was also running a relic package with Severin and Elvish Swindler and a bunch of different like little relics. Like I had it was mainly Aurelian, so Time Primal Shadow, and I threw in a Cauldron Cookbook, which I can go get for free with Swindler. I threw in a Golem Press, which I can go get free with Swindler. And the pledge cards like Heirloom Seeker and there was Crystalline Chalice in there too. I don't know. It was a really cool hodgepodge of cards. A lot of them were elves, so I also threw in Lethrai Hideaway. Now, this deck didn't really do so hot, but I eventually I was talking in my Teams chat, the TGP, the Great Parliament, and Batteries has been working on a deck called Bazaar Rats, named after the card that's in their market called Bazaar Stampede. Bazaar Stampede costs 5 double white and a blue. It says your relics get +1/+1 for each, or your units get +1/+1 for each relic you have with a different name. Now that's the only that's one card out of 75 or 80 cards or 90 cards. No, 80 cards. 80 cards. One card out of 80 cards, and because it's so important to the deck's plan, the deck is named after that. It's Bazaar and Rats. The deck is all about Rat Cage. It's all about Lethrai Courtier. Courtier? I don't know how to say that exactly. But it's also got Elvish Swindler. This is one of the few decks that actually runs Azurite Prixis to good advantage. And the only advantage that it really is that it's a 0-cost artifact or a 0-cost relic. You can go get it for free. You can play Elvish Swindler and go get it. You can unearth the past if you sacrifice it with your Lethrai Lobotomy to kill an enemy unit, and you can unearth it for free and get it and play it for free to trigger all of your other relics. So you might think that a 0-cost basically do nothing spell is not great. However, because it costs 0, it does a lot, and it triggers all the rest of the stuff that we're doing in this deck. So definitely give that a look. I'll make sure that Jay posts the links to this in the underneath or next to or above or next to the other way. This so that you can see it because it's really great. It's super fun, and Batteries is constantly tweaking it.
Yeah, this deck looks cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. This is the one that Jay said he was gonna be playing.
Yes, definitely. This is something that I'm going to try out. I don't think I have to make anything. I'm pretty sure I do have a Prixis. I may have gotten rid of it at one point or another, but it that's the only thing I see in here that I would need to craft. So, and that's the other thing too, is that the deck doesn't look that expensive to build.
Yeah, the only legendaries are Azurite Prixis, and I don't know if you got the same one that I have. Oh, what? Huh. Well, I guess that's different from the one that I'm looking at. The one that I'm looking at, he's got 2 Azurite Prixises and, no Clock of the Stolen. I don't know. We'll post a link. You guys take a look at it. It's super fun. The next deck is something that is so near and dear to my heart. I am always always interested in a Haunting Scream deck. Haunted Highway is great. It's a little mainstream for me. That I know I sound like a fucking hipster when I say that, but back in like set 3 before Merchants came out, I was super interested in Haunting Scream, Recurring Nightmare, and Righteous Fury. Somebody made a deck with all 3 of those cards. Righteous Fury. So Haunting Scream reanimates a unit that costs 4 less, gives it charge and flying, and then you sacrifice it at the end of turn. Recurring Nightmare is a 1/1 flying charge where when it hits your opponent, you double his power permanently and then put him back into your hand. So you don't have to sacrifice him at the end of turn with that Haunting Scream because he's back in your hand already. And then Righteous Fury, give target unit double damage and lifesteal as a fast spell. The only problem with that is that Recurring Nightmare and Haunting Scream cost Primal and Shadow, whereas Righteous Fury costs Fire and Justice. So this deck is basically a 4-color hodgepodge, but it has some really cool abilities in that it runs Elvish Swindler. You can go get Secret Passage, which makes one of your units unblockable. You can make your Recurring Nightmare unblockable permanently, and then you can give it, double damage and lifesteal, and just after 3 turns, they're basically just dead. It also runs the new card Honor of Claws, draw 3, pitch 1. It runs Vargo, which is also screamable, which is kind of crazy. It's got 2 main deck boars, which is kind of insane as well. It's got a Stormhalt Knife. It's got a couple of the new sights. It's real spicy, and I'm excited to see this thing take off. Now, just so that you guys are aware, this deck was designed by Tim, T1M, which is very difficult to say when you're trying to spell it. But so I had a deck that was similar to this, and I saw Tim post this list. I think it was in Grimfan's Discord, and I stole it. I stole it unabashedly, and I've been playing it. It's so much fun.
This is an interesting deck. I would not mind checking this one out either. And I mean, it's another, like, what I would call a budget brew because sure. Let's see here. Outside of your crests that you have to use, there's only just like a handful of rares that you need.
Yeah, basically you'd probably want to be crafting Righteous Fury if you don't have those, which you probably shouldn't. Recurring Nightmares if you didn't play during set 1. There's only 2 Whispering Winds. Everything else comes from like campaigns and stuff. Like the cookbook comes from a campaign. Quarry comes from a campaign. And then the new campaign has a few cards in here as well. But pretty much everything else is pretty cheap.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Looks cool.
Yeah. All right. So take a look at those.
Yeah, definitely. And I will, I'll post a link at some point or another if I forget. So let's move to our brew of the week. So in the spirit of the Shark Brews, our brew of the week this week is a Pledge Rod deck that was created by your favorite Pledge Rod or Rod aficionado and mine, Grimfan. Now I know... before anybody is like, oh, but there's some other versions out there. I do realize that there's other versions of this deck out there. But Grimfan, I believe, was the first one that published a list with Pledge Rod, and also is pretty well known for how into Rod decks he is. So I wanted to give him the credit that is due to him for coming up with this concept. I will admit that before the campaign came out, I didn't really think that Pledge was going to do a whole lot, but I think everybody has been surprised at how good Bearguard Bayonet has been, which this deck does take advantage of.
I didn't even know that Pledge was a keyword that you can get with Divining Rod.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that either. So Divining Rod does say play all units from the top 4 cards of your deck that share a skill with the wielder. So it's not just battle skill, it's just skill in general. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So his list is playing a lot of Pledge units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's playing 7 playsets of Pledge units. Some much better than others. So he does have Coastal Recruit, which I think is just a testament to he doesn't want to mess with his Divining Rod. And then he's playing the set of Glasshoppers, which I feel like if you're playing Pledge units, you should be playing Glasshoppers.
Yep.
And then looks like some hailstorms just for like early game interaction. I know some other versions shoved a couple harsh rules in, but I mean it's a general rod deck. It's very much all in on the rod, divining rod. But this one seems to be able to have a lot of early game interaction. The only thing that like concerns me is you only have weapons to turn on your Anayas. And then a lot of the pledge creatures are like pretty good on their own, but Anaya and Imperial Loyalist really only become valuable when you have things to use on them. So like Anaya is a lot better. Like Anaya is probably the prime target that you want to hit with your Divining Rod or your Bear Guard Bayonet.
Actually, he says in his description that your best target to put Rod on is Imperial Loyalist.
Oh yeah, so I was gonna.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna get to that because Imperial Loyalist doesn't get anything from Bear Guard Bayonet, but obviously, if you put the Divining Rod on there, you can get a 6-cost or less creature.
Yeah, you can go get a Nia, you can go get Moonstone Vanguard, Silverwing Courtier, another Imperial Loyalist if you want to, a Merchant, whatever you need, you can go get with Imperial Loyalist if you rod it.
Yeah, so that when I was looking at this list, I was just like, Imperial Loyalist, Divining Rod, it seems so good. And then I do know that one of the other lists I was looking at was running the Charge Relic, which I think would be really good in because like I think
Monolith.
Yeah, the Monolith. Because like I think one of the things that this is missing over the other rod decks is obviously in Charge Rod your units have charge, so you have very explosive turns where you get a bunch of charge units and you just swing face.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I will post a link to that in the thread, and so from there let's move on to our brewskis of the week.
Brewski.
Our brewskis of the week. So this week, I decided to open up a can of Grapefruit Slam IPA by Stone.
Slam.
Yes, Slam. Stone has been one of my favorite breweries for a really long time, and grapefruit is always wonderful inside an IPA. The pros is that this is one of the most delicious IPAs you're going to find on the market. The con is a 6-pack is $18.
Yikes. Okay, that's fair. It sounds great, and I do like Stone as well, but $18. Whew,
yeah,
somebody else bring that.
It's very expensive. So tell us about yours.
Mine is apparently a little more common. I didn't even know that this was around everywhere, but I've got a Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA. It's super great. There's a 60-minute and a 90-minute, and I much prefer 60. 90 is a little too aggressive, but I don't know. I dig it.
We are not the same person.
I still like 90, but I like 60 is 60 is good. It's
60 is a very solid IPA. Very solid IPA. I agree with you.
90 is for when you want to get fucked up.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, double IPAs are my shit. Like, anytime I can drink a double IPA, that is my preference.
Yep.
All right, let's move to the streamer of the week, and I'm gonna let you take this one away.
All right, streamer of the week is Gibbon Plus Plus. Gibbon Plus Plus is a super cool dude. I remember when he first started streaming. He's super good at drafting, and he does not do any ranked play at all. Yeah, I think he said that he tried to do a ranked game, and he lost immediately. He's like, well, let's go draft again. But I think my favorite thing about him is he's got phenomenal emotes. So if you actually subscribe to him, you get access to at least 2 emotes. I know that he's got 2 really funny ones. One of them is "Be an Adult." It's just the text "Be an Adult" as one little tiny emote, and that's in reference to, you know, when you're drafting, you're like, oh, I really want to pick this good card, but I want to pick this card that's better for my deck. And it's like, be an adult, pick the card that's better for your deck. You'll win more, you know, packs or whatever at the end. And then he's got another emote that says "Don't." So sometimes you can just be like, don't be an adult.
That's so brilliant. I love that so
Yeah,
much.
it's so good. He's a super good guy. You can find him at twitch.tv/Gibbon Gibbon plus plus.
Awesome, definitely. I'll go check them out. I do eventually want to start drafting, but I mean, we'll see if
Someday.
that ever happens. Anyways, if you guys happen to have any questions or topic suggestions, please leave a comment on the Reddit thread or the YouTube, preferably Reddit thread or Discord, which you'll find the Discord link down below as well. Um, where can they find you, Shark?
So the best place to find me is Discord. Like Jay said, that's the link that we're going to give you. That's where we have all the ideas for the podcast and everything. Because that's where you can find me between streams. That's where you can find me between playing games of Eternal. I'm always just checking my Discord. You can find me on Twitch as TallSharkandHandsome. You can find me on Eternal as TallSharkandHandsome plus 4960. On Reddit as TallSharkandHandsome, and on Twitter as @SharkandTall because TallSharkandHandsome wouldn't fit. How about you, Jay?
All right. So the best place to find me as well is on Discord. I'm going to be in Shark's Discord or Bassoon Buffoons if you happen to be in his Discord. Those are like, I will probably see messages that are at me on there any time of day. So if you really, really want to get a hold of me, that's the best way. You can find me on Twitch at JayOSU. I don't really stream very often, and when I do, it's usually not Eternal. So sorry to disappoint. Eternal is JayMang plus 8035. So I'm sure everybody is just jumping to add me. And Reddit, I'm JayOSU, which you'll see in the Reddit thread most likely because that's what I believe that's where we acquire most of our listeners is through the Reddit thread. And then on Twitter is at JayOSU, where I will never tweet pretty much. So I do want to get into the habit of making a Twitter for the podcast so that we can post on there, hey, new episodes live. Early on, I tried to make a Facebook page. It felt really weird. It was awkward. I decided to get rid of it, but Twitter makes a lot more sense. So maybe here in the future, you'll be able to add that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for listening. We are The Eternal Struggle, and stay average.